What's up, friend? Thank you so much for tuning into Fun Ahead TV today. Guess what? Your boy's got a fresh stack of tires, a 911 that desperately needs them, and a tire machine right behind you that we can use to swap out said tires. Let's go ahead and get right into it.
Rippin', tearin', the rippin' and the tearin'.
All right, now if you remember about a month and a half ago, I went and purchased a tire mounter machine and a balancer, something that I have desperately been wanting to add to the shop's repertoire for the last several years. We finally have that capability. But today is the very first day that we're actually going to be putting this machine to work by swapping out the tires for my 911. Now I've got a fresh stack here of Kumho Exta V730 tires. These are the tires that I've been actually running on this car for a couple of years now, and I like them a lot. If you've never heard of this type of tire, but you do track days, then definitely look into them. They're very cheap, relatively. They're a very grippy, sporty tire, and I mean, I have multiple track weekends on the current set of tires that are on my car, plus a lot of road miles as well. Let's get into it. I couldn't be more psyched. Alrighty, now we're gonna arbitrarily just start with the front tires here. Obviously, we're not using the lift because we've got Eric's super sweet blue base model Boxster on the lift right now. If you missed that first video on this car, please go back and check it out. We're doing a lot of pretty cool stuff with this thing. This thing is such a clean freaking car, and we're going to be mechanically rejuvenating it to get it absolutely freaking cherry. Anyway, let's go ahead and start swapping out this front tire. Okay, here's how to change a tire. First and foremost, I'm just gonna go ahead and set this wheel up here so that we can pull out our valve stem. Now obviously we need to remove all of the air from the tire in order to actually remove the tire. That's kind of a prerequisite, and removing the valve stem is the way to do so. Gotta be careful because these will fly out. Okay, and now that we've got that taken care of, it's time to use our bead breaker. So this is basically a massive pneumatic powered blade that then pushes into the bead to get it off of the bead of the rim. So here's how this works. Kind of get it lined up, press our pedal here. Boom. And yes, it's a violent procedure. Now, of course, these are very sporty tires, meaning inherently they're very thick rubber so that they can stand up to all the forces that you would see out on a racetrack. It keeps the sidewall very thick. The actual surface of the tire itself has a very thick amount of rubber in it to just hold its structure, which inherently makes changing one of these things a complete pain in the butt. Plus the fact that it is 20 degrees outside right now, Fahrenheit, and these have been sitting inside the shop, so the rubber is very cold and not malleable. What's the word I'm trying to look for? Yeah, like hard to work with at the moment. So getting this tire off is gonna be really fun. So I'm just gonna keep doing this until I get this loosened up all the way around on both sides, then we'll go ahead and move on to the next step. All right, so we've got our tire debeaded. Let's go ahead and get this puppy off of here, hopefully. Locking it into the table there. So again, because this tire is so thick, and especially right here on this outside part where it's basically just like a slick, this is so not malleable or pliable, and it keeps wanting to get the outside sidewall rebeaded back up on the rim. So that makes taking this thing off and putting them back on a total pain. This is just kind of something we have to especially pay attention to. The other side, because it's got these tread lines, it allows it to kind of like bend nicely at these thinner points, which allows the back side of the tire to get off the bead entirely. But the front side, as you can see, keeps wanting to reseat itself. So the sportier tires, you really have to work more. And this particular machine doesn't have the really nice attachment that pushes on the opposite side of the tire. That is a very critical thing. So therefore, it just means we have to do that much more manual labor in the process of taking this tire off. But it is doable. It's just one of those things you kind of have to like do some tips and tricks. One of those tips and tricks is getting yourself a massive one of these units. What are these called? Like, not Vice, but yeah, Vice? I don't know. What are these called? Drop it in the comments. I can't even think right now. So here is how I use this. Instead of leaning all my body weight into this, I can actually utilize this tool to kind of pull the tire up off the rim, or keep it debeaded. Kind of gives me a point to be able to work this thing around. So as you can see right now, it's like lightly sitting on the rim in this part, but everywhere else it's debeaded. So that allows me to get this off much more nicely. Nicely is very relative, I assure you. So one big tip here when removing a tire and reinstalling it is that you need to keep the side of the tire opposite of your tool completely debeaded and down in here. Because we're literally pulling this thing up and over the rim, the tire doesn't get any bigger. So in order to create space, you kind of have to put the bead down into the cavernous part of the inner side of the rim. As you can see, our tire is debeaded down inside that portion. And we've gotten it started here. And I need to keep my tool here just so that I can continue to hold this edge. Otherwise, this side is going to immediately go right back down into it. So I'm just going to start working this around. And of course, this painter's tape is not a permanent solution, but I'll probably have to replace it every single tire I do. That's fine. Okay. So we've got our outer side done, obviously. Now, we just need to take the hooked side of our tool, grab the inner bead, lift it up so we can create some space here, and then tap our tool. Oh my God. Awesome. I just put a massive mark on this rim. Nice, dude. I just put a massive mark on this rim. This tool on the tire machine needs to be replaced. There's a plastic bumper in there that is completely worn out, and I shouldn't be using it right now because it's metal on aluminum alloy. Great, great. Just freaking scratched my rim up. Awesome. Love that. Love that. All right, so I'm bummed about my rim, but it's not the end of the world. It should be pretty easy to touch that up. All right, so I've gone ahead and lubed up the inner edge of the tire, the bead, and we can start by reinstalling it. So believe it or not, the inner edge of the tire actually goes on quite easy. If you get enough lube on this thing, you don't even need to use this at all. You just push it on, like so. Now this edge though, you definitely need the machine for. Also, make sure your outer edge of the tire is truly facing the outer edge of the wheel. So the key here is we're gonna start working this thing on enough to where we can then, oh, I didn't lube up these points, hold on.
Oh.
And also the name of the game is lube. Get lube on as much stuff that the tire is hitting, anything that the tire hits. All right, now especially here is where that accessory comes in very handy for the tire machine. So instead of having the luxury of using that, I'm just going to So as you're doing this, you really have to use your body weight to make sure that the tire is staying in this channel on the tool. Otherwise it's gonna pop off super easily and you have to completely reset and try it again. Oh my gosh, okay, that was such a freaking saga, but we got it mounted after much hard work. Remind me to never ever change sport tires in the wintertime ever again. Whoo, that sucked. Okay, now that it's mounted, now it's time to get the beads seated. So we do that by just getting some air pressure in it. And I think actually I already heard both of these pop. I barely had any air pressure on it, but that's how stiff this tire is. Just getting it mounted, basically you get the beads set on the rim. Pretty wild. So let's go ahead and get some air pressure in this thingy. That's about 20. That's 30. Okay, so with that air pressure in there, we can go ahead and put our valve stem back in. Okay. All right, well, and that is how you mount a tire, period. And also scratch one of your rims if you're interested in learning how to do that. I'm not salty, it's all good. No, it's my own fault. I should have replaced this tool right before starting to use this thing, but I didn't. So that's my own fault. But at any rate, we've got this new front tire on there. Now I just have 3 more to go. Love it. That's how you mount a tire using a tire machine. I just figured I'd go ahead and show you guys how to do that because I was super duper excited to get these tools in the shop. And you know, in the first video on this thing, we really just kind of mounted and balanced just a tire I had sitting around. We didn't actually change tires to brand new tires that we're actually going to be using on the track with Project Beef. So hopefully you found that informative, and even if you're never ever going to apply this knowledge, at least you know generally how it's done. So next time you take your car to tire discounters, you know what they're doing back there. Hopefully you enjoyed this. If you did, do me a huge favor, hit the like button, and please subscribe because it helps out my channel massively. And you get to see even more Fun Ahead TV videos coming down the pipeline to you via Fun Ahead TV every single week. So thank you again so much for being here. I appreciate each and every one of you for being here. Yes, you, I'm looking right at you. Now I'll see you all in the next video. See ya. Oh, my tall guy knees.
Rippin', tearin'. The rippin'